You know what Trump was doing in the election? And when he did it, I was kind of like, it's a good idea. I wonder if it really matters, though. I think it mattered. They were doing whiskey and cigar parties
Right.
in big cities, and they were inviting guys to come and like have whiskey and smoke cigars at bars. I know people who were doing it, like friends of mine, like the barber I went to when I was at home. He was like, oh yeah, they had like a whiskey and cigar party.
One of the most interesting questions to always ask people now is, where do you get your news? How did you learn about something? And in this day and age, it's almost like a scary question to ask. It's like, holy cow, what are you watching? Where did you trust? Like, you may to the extent you even know it exists, you're like, are you sure that that's the right place to be getting your information?
Welcome back, everybody, to the latest episode of Trailblaze, where we talk about the America we are becoming, and are we becoming something different these days? I'm Nayyera, joined by my dear friend.
Hey, I'm Jamal Simmons. It's good to be here with you, Nayyera.
We are recording this and having this conversation on day one of the official Trump administration. There has already been, 100-something executive orders, and the idea of writing things, and making government declarations and throwing Sharpies at people. This is our new normal, dare I say. And I think we're all coming to grips with that. Where are you at today, Jamal?
So, I'm at home here in New Jersey, but one of the things that I noticed yesterday is that we are all in the middle of a reality show, WWE, UFC match. And so, gladiators to the arena. Those of us on the left have got to figure out how we are going to engage in a way that's entertaining to people and not just, entertaining to a bunch of eggheads at the Brookings Institution, but how we're going to engage people out in the real world because they're getting bread in circuses. And so we got to
truthfully, I've never really seen myself as terribly lefty. And again, we all have our own weird self-perceptions, but this to me is beyond left and right politics. It is a fundamental change in how how government has worked, what our expectations have been of leaders, how leaders have behaved in the past. And we had a reminder and an inkling of that was a possibility when we had Trump term 1. And then the Biden administration, we had 4 years, and we didn't make the fundamental changes that needed to happen to stop someone like Donald Trump, who doesn't care about rule of law, is a convicted felon, wants to bring people who have lots of money and power with him to get more money and power, right? This is the type of tyranny the founders warned against. So this is way beyond, for me, about left and center and right, because this is not a conservative theory of government case that's happening right now. This is a fundamental change that Americans have brought forward. And I say it's not just America, but Americans have brought this forward.
Absolutely. And so one of the first ways that we're going to figure this out, though, because you are absolutely right, this is not just left and right. It is about how we're going to bring it out. My belief is, I've been calling it 3D politics for a long time. It's not just left and right, it's outsiders versus insiders. And so we've got to figure out how the Democrats and the people on the left get back on the side of the outsiders, want more reform, more change, not defending the institutions, but trying to figure out how to change and reform the institutions in a way that's going to benefit people and not destroy the very essence of the democracy that I think that the sort of Trump group is trying to create. And to do that, one of the first institutions that we are going to have to fix, and it's going to be on the table, is going to be the Democratic National Committee. And that's why we're here with our first guest.
Well, and this idea of party politics, and what does it mean to not only be the party in opposition, but the party that is going to potentially set the agenda for America and anybody who is not a Trumpian going forward, right? Vast majority of Americans right now are politically unaffiliated. Can Democrats get those people organized? Can they do this? So our guest now is Faiz Shakir. You may have known him as being Bernie Sanders' campaign manager. He also has served as in the DNC, which is where I knew him from, it seems like many lifetimes ago. So both of us know the institution inside and out. And these days, Faiz is doing something very drastic, I think. He is, instead of saying, I'm going to be a staffer and help other people do party politics, Faiz, welcome. You are running for DNC chair.
Nayyera, Jamal, thanks for the invitation. Look forward to this chat.
Well, it's good to see you. We are glad that you're here because, as much as the Democratic Party can be frustrating to so many people,
How many people, Jamal?
Too many people. But as much as it can be frustrating, it is an institution that's been around for a long time and has a lot of infrastructure that is going to matter as we try to navigate this new world. So I am happy that we get new people who are joining, like you, and people who are making sure their voice is going to be heard. And so I think we should just open this up by giving you a second to just tell the audience, why did you make this choice to run for DNC chair?
Well, I jumped in late, Jamal, and you know that. And part of the reason was I'm feeling like there's actually a lot of commonality that we want a working class party, whatever that means, right? So we want a working class party. And as I was watching the conversation happen, I was like, wait. I have some very concrete and specific ideas about how we make it a working class party, and we'll get into that in a second. And didn't feel like, the current discourse was meeting the bar, because I don't think people want to just hear the pablum. They want to see, and particularly for working class people who I think don't follow politics that closely, are not tracking the day to day. You're going to have to turn their heads. Your first job is to just get their attention back in the door. And so as a theory, as a kind of the operating premise is to make the Democratic National Committee a grassroots party. That has to be the North Star mission. And when you're making anything a grassroots movement, I did this at the ACLU for 2 years during the first two Trump years, and then led Bernie Sanders' campaign the next 2 years. Both pretty vibrant grassroots operations. You got to give people a road in. What does DNC membership mean to either of you right now? Like beyond an online donation, does the Democratic Party ask you of anything or do anything in community with you right now? And I think that's where I want to hone in on.
I love that that's what you've honed in on, this idea of community, because there was an era where being part of a political party was a key part of your identity. And now, as I mentioned, vast majority of Americans unaffiliated, many people who are affiliated for reasons of how you vote in primaries don't feel connected. So much of the party structure was built around running somebody for president, supporting the person running for president. How do you change that to make it more about people in communities?
When you think about, Nayyera, the amount of money, there's a lot of money going, we saw this in the last presidential campaign. You look at a lot of the spend, it's related to paid advertising. And that's fine. We all need paid advertising. God knows we've all run campaigns. You need paid advertising. But what would be complementary and important to it is also a grassroots sustained base, organic engagement and interest throughout the year. And, when you're right that when a Democratic Party of its long lineage and history has always believed in service of others beyond ourselves, that when we govern to improve lives of people who are struggling, whatever walks that you're in. And we've kind of got disassociated from the local fights of people in community, whether you're fighting your utility rate hike or you are fighting against to cancel medical debt in your community, or you are organizing to go on strike or forming a new union. That those used to be and still I think should be things that we associate ourselves with. They may not be quote unquote political and partisan, but they are of our values, and we have to associate ourselves with them. And when we stick our necks out, and people see that, hey, man, when we were on strike, you guys came to our support. Guess what happens? They're now part of a movement. They will be more with us when we ask them to vote. It's not also just straight up, policy related stuff. I have in my mind a vision of, sponsoring little league teams and basketball tournaments, going to a Super Bowl watch party. Like, why couldn't you, if you're going to watch the Super Bowl, right? At this moment where people are feeling alienated and alone, the Democratic National Committee, we're going to ask you to come out. We got a place we've rented. We got, some pizza. Just hang out with us. Build community. I think the opportunity there is ripe.
Someone told me a long time ago, a good organizer who I trust a lot said, if you're doing your job right as a political party and as a political candidate, people should feel guilty for not voting for you because you've been such a part of the fabric of their lives. You're talking about the things they care about. You're enabling them to do things that they aspire to, whether it's, if you're a candidate and you can't help connect somebody with, a rent organization because they can't get their rent paid, or you can't connect them with, healthcare, a healthcare clinic because their kid is sick. They should feel like by the time election day comes around, there's nobody I want to vote for other than this guy.
It also goes to a core organizing philosophy I have, and it related to what you said, Jamal, is that oftentimes, in these high moments, I saw it with ACLU and, Bernie, like, let's take ACLU for instance, family separation is going on, right? And people will come out. You ask them, hey, come out in solidarity with this in this moment. They will show up. And so that's the first time. But if they're going to show up the second and the third and the fourth time, it ends up being, in my view, that they show up for Jamal. I really liked hanging out with Jamal. Hey, Jamal, you going? Great, I'm going. Right. That bond, that relationship is critical in establishing that that's a core of what we are, of a community of service to others beyond ourselves, such that that network you're talking about, when you are in trouble, I am here with some people to find a way to help you. Because we on the left, we don't have as much of a civic organization right now built that the right does. If you look at homeschool associations, churches, gun clubs, what have you, there are more inherent ways for people to engage each other in community to help each other in times of need. And you look at us, you see maybe unions or college campuses. But if you get out of there, where are we looking to each other, helping build support for each other, talking with each other about things that matter, thinking about philosophy, what kinds of changes we want, not only nationally, but here on the ground. It's those who have done well, actually, if you look at the Democratic parties, and I give credit to Ben Wickler and Ken Martin, two other candidates in this race, I think that you see those where we are strong. But where we are not strong, right, is the lack of that kind of a community building approach.
So here's one of my challenges with this version of community building, where we are in terms of brand. We talk about the loneliness and the need for connection. And yes, the right built many mini ecosystems of connection. But the partisan part of it, right, transcended and wasn't part of that original connection. Here's what I mean. Trump is somebody they all happen to like. Many of them would not identify as tried and true Republicans. Some do, some don't. But something about transcending that opportunity or just that one thing. And here's what I mean by this. When you said, why not go to a Democratic Party sponsored Super Bowl? And I suddenly went, ick, because I don't want to right now.
Right.
And I'm somebody who engages in politics as part of a profession and an intellectual exercise. And I'm like, ick, that doesn't sound like, right, we're just so over so much of how this has already been done. How do you reignite that?
Well, if they take that one, that's a great, and I'm glad you offered that candid reaction, because that is what we're dealing with, right? That the brand itself, the idea that you're going to join it, will it even be fun? Will it be pestered? Like, have this setup of people bothering me about all this political stuff? Lack of trust.
It'll be tofu. They'll be serving you tofu chips.
But, I'm going to argue, if you get this right, we're more on the track of speaking in community. You're going to have to know your community, Nayyera, or Jamal, wherever you are, right? If I say, Jamal, hey, guess what? You got to figure out a compelling, I don't know exactly where in Jersey you are, but let's say in Trenton for a second. So you're in Trenton and you say, hey, I got to get a Super Bowl party. You're going to have to, your job is to figure out, hey, what's this community going to get interested? What's going to bring them in the door? What are the kind of things who they kind of going to be rooting for? They have a dog in this fight. You're now those kinds of questions are compelling you to know about the people around you, to make appeals to them, to see what might, and I'm going to grant to you, Nayyera, at the beginning of this, it's going to be a struggle. Because we're not a grassroots party. You couldn't pull this off easily. Could Trump easily pull off, hey, everyone, come watch the UFC fight with me in some house parties? Could you come and watch, me signing executive orders together? Yeah, like, they got that. This is not rocket science. It's not impossible. It's just that this is a muscle that we are not flexing.
You know what Trump was doing in the election? And when he did it, I was kind of like, it's a good idea. I wonder if it really matters, though. I think it mattered. They were doing whiskey and cigar parties. In big cities, and they were inviting guys to come and have whiskey and smoke cigars at bars. And so it was just an organizing thing, and people were doing it. I know people who were doing it, like friends of mine, like the barber I went to when I was at home. Like, I grew up in Detroit, and I was at home. He was like, "Oh yeah, they had like a whiskey and cigar party." So I take my son to the barber. I don't need one myself, but I do take my son to the barber. But those are the kind of things that become real for people. And we don't have to always be so serious. There are going to be times we are going to have to be serious. But as you know, as an organizer, sometimes you just want to, it's like college organizing. Just have pizza. Just like come and have some pizza and hang out with your friends for a while.
And if you build this right, you're starting to deal with a few problems we have in society. Not only the loneliness that, mentioned already, but the idea of a broken information ecosystem. How did, one of the most interesting questions to always ask people now is, where do you get your news? How did you learn about something? And in this day and age, it's almost like a scary question to ask. It's like, holy cow, what are you watching? Where did you trust? Like, you may to the extent you even know it exists, you're like, are you sure that that's the right place to be getting your information? And how do you combat it? Well, you're not going to fully combat it. We got to build up our own media architecture as a, core thing that I believe in, that we got to be our own social content engine at the DNC. I think of it partly as a job of being an editor-in-chief of a digital news operation, create compelling content for our social channels. But
and what's the name of that operation? I'm just curious. What's the name of it?
For the DNC?
No, for yours, the one that you're in the middle of?
Mine is called More Perfect Union.
Oh, More Perfect Union. Okay, I just wanted to make sure the audience
I've been building up for the past 3 years. And, for instance, on our YouTube channel, we have 1.3 million subscribers. Guess how many the DNC has on their YouTube channel? Take a guess. If we have 1.3 million and started 3 years ago, how many does the DNC have? 200,000. The answer, 78,000. So 78,000 to 1.3. Anyway, so we go. I think in confronting the media ecosystem problem, we also get in community together, hear each other, talk. Hey. Did you hear about it? And I think to your point, Jamal, it's like, we can have serious conversations, but the first entree in some of these situations is not to make it like, hey, we got to show up and talk about how Donald Trump, really issued these 15 executive orders that we really, really hate. Can you come and join me in this meeting? It may not be the best way to reach working class people. That's what I'm going to suggest.
So I want to get back to something we mentioned earlier, which has been such a challenge for new talent and younger people to break into. And it's the idea of how much money has come to be normal, and just the amount of money that has been normalized in being spent to run any type of campaign. And I know there's folks like you and other, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez who have spoken about this and how fundamentally that's changed the way we do politics. But in this moment right now, so many people look at the DNC chair position and say, yeah, that's just a fundraising job. You got to raise money and you got to get all these internal delegates, and it's all about this inside game. And the idea of having a good message, or even the idea of connecting with working class people, has gotten so much lower on the totem pole to win these positions of power.
Yes, we've become constrained in our ambitions of what the DNC chair does. I mean, there's a few reasons for that. One is the decline of the party structure, as you guys know. I mean, many of us came into this politics, right, when we remember kind of the head of a DNC or RNC being a particularly important figure for a party, and now the rise of super PACs and outside expenditures has suggested, well, maybe that architecture you got over there, that doesn't operate very quickly or smoothly or efficiently. I got all these experts over here funded by a couple of really wealthy people, and we can just rock and roll. And it has meant that we've become constrained in our ambition of what the hell an architecture is. And I think, just let's grasp with reality. Like if it is just merely a fundraising role, then fine. There's other people who can think status quo and operate within party structure, raise some money, and dole out, to the state parties their cuts. I think, though, you want to, at this moment, have a different value proposition of what the Democratic parties, particularly the head of the DNC, could bring. And this is why I keep coming back to the grassroots nature. Like the membership, people, an active list, not only through your state parties and the active email list and the people who are participating on a daily basis. It has to be a metric that we're all assessing, and we want to see growth over these next 4 years. You want to see more and more people in Ohio and Nebraska and Idaho, I don't care where you live, being associated and part of our email list with us doing events with those folks, building some community. Then also on our social channels, right? That you have to own that part of the value, whoever the next Democratic nominee is for president in 2027, 2028, that they're going to inherit an architecture that is not merely a fundraising vehicle in which large donors give us money so that we can just dole it out to this joint venture thing or joint fundraising committee to go do X, Y, and Z. That they can handle on their own, honestly. Yeah. The value you got to bring is people, and that people power is where we got to focus.
So that's the systemic stuff, right? That's the build the organization, deal with the infrastructure, the nitty gritty. Where do you fall when it comes time to talk about ideology? Do you think that those two things are in conflict? They go together? Are they on separate tracks? How do you view the ideological arguments?
I used to think that they were a little bit more, and I'll be honest, for myself, it was a little bit of a hesitancy for that reason. I come to a lot of these conversations with the core conviction of certain answers that I believe in and what drove me into politics. And my impression coming out of this, where we lick our wounds and having lost to Donald Trump, is there actually is more consensus and coherence around the things that I find myself having been advocating for a number of years and feeling good about that. Like, hey, the rhetoric of being a working class party, fighting oligarchy, the influence of corporate power, those are problems in our society that we should focus on. And the core Democratic Party, when we're doing it right, elevates economic justice as the primacy in your mind. The fight for the common man and woman, that is what I associate with this Democratic Party. That, to me, it's starting to feel, and you test my assumptions on this, is that spans almost the entire party right now. That there is a hunger, at least at the rhetorical level, to say all those things. So I'm like, great, bam, let's do that, because I certainly have a conviction over a long period of time around this. Now the question is, so what do you do about it? And that's where I didn't see the separation in my mind amongst people. I see a lot more, the words, and I'm like, no, but actions. Like we got to do things that just change the way people see this brand. You got to think of yourself as a brand manager at this point.
Oh yeah.
I liken it. Many of you probably have a favorite sports team. Jamal, you got a favorite sports team?
I don't want to talk about it right now.
Okay.
He grew up in Detroit.
I'm a Lions fan.
Man, that's rough for you. I won't claim to be a huge Commanders fan, but I'm riding the Jaden Daniels bandwagon.
Yeah. If Lions weren't in it, I'm about to become a Jaden Daniels fan. It's going to take me a minute to get over it.
No, understandably. However, like if I said
you're not going to ask me the sports question because I'm a girl.
I just can't see you, so I'm sorry. I would ask you. I just think it's look at Jamal. So there, go ahead.
Thank you. But I will. I am sports mom is how I come to all of this. So I am navigating a 49ers household that has some challenges with the fact that the Chiefs just continue to win.
So if I sent you, I don't know, I'm going to think of a favorite 49ers, let's say Kaepernick in his heyday or something.
Ooh, yeah.
And
we've got strong feelings about Kaepernick too.
Okay. Well, give me a favorite. Montana. Let's go back in the day.
Let's go back. Yeah.
Okay. Let's go back to Montana. And I send you a game jersey from Joe Montana that you get to wear. How proud would you be to put it on and walk around, around town with that?
I mean, I even me, mommy come lately to all of this would be damn proud and, walking around with that, knowing that this is a familial and a historical connection that I have. And I would put up with shit from people if they tried to give it to me. Though Joe Montana really is universally recognized as a great football player.
Now I send you a jersey.
Mine would be Barry Sanders. Go ahead.
Oh, that'd be good. Yeah. Now I send you, Nayyera, a jersey that says Democrats. Tell me your reactions. Just honestly.
I mean, you don't have to see my face to hear the deafening silence in my voice right now.
Are you going to put it on?
Not today. No, not today.
Anywhere. Would you?
Not today.
Honestly, I mean, this is what we're testing. This is the brand, right? This is where you got to get to, if for a lot of core Trump people, right, I'd send them a Trump shirt. They are going to put on the hat. They're going to put on the shirt, and they're going to proudly.
I get that, but that kind of groupthink also freaks me out. So it's the idea of those of us who get freaked out by being told what to do, being freaked out by the groupthink, this idea of individual thought and identity. That's such a thing that belongs in our side of the bucket. So how do you get people like that to want to wear or sign up for the brand when part of us is, we're individualistic and we want to respect that?
You're raising a really interesting question, because I think while people weren't willing to wear a Democratic brand, I think a lot of people wore Kamala, right? Those Kamala signs were everywhere. People felt an affection and an affinity to it. I think with the Republicans, I don't know if they're wearing the Republican brand, but MAGA
Trump.
is it,
yeah,
right?
They're wearing
Trump is it, which then raises to me, Does this mean that we need like a brand derivative, right? We need an adjacent brand because the Democratic brand may be too hard to fix in the short term. But if we had something that wasn't an individual person specific, but captured some other essence about who we were.
Now to wrap it together, the tangential element is that proud member of the working class. Like, are you associated with the working class? Well, I'm a proud person of the working class. I work at Amazon, and I deliver boxes, and yet I don't get health care, and I know who fights with me and who cares about the situation that I'm dealing with, or gig driver or whatever. I'm dealing with some issues, but I'm proud with dignity of what I do to earn a living. And it's that association with people and their jobs and their work that is our strongest point. And to your point, it may be they don't wear a Democratic shirt, but they wear working class association, and that they associate us with that.
Yeah.
And, one person's group thing, to Nayyera, your point is that, it's another person's affinity and affection. Sure, it's your club. It's like when I asked you about the 49ers, you weren't, it's not like a group think that we're all 49ers. You had a passion. You had an affiliation. You were excited about it.
That has been forced on me by the little children and men in my household. But yes, I have given in, and now I just embrace it.
So I want the same feeling. And I saw this myself when, in the height of the ACLU, when we were doing our grassroots organizing around Trump, or Bernie, when we were at the height of our campaign. I saw people getting involved with passion, and we should not reject it or push them out. When democracy is messy, they get in, they bring themselves, their whole selves, and we need to open our doors to those people that come in with a passion, desire to affiliate and find affinity with our core convictions.
All right, so let me ask you the hard knocks question about where we are. What's the race look like for you, the DNC race? You've got these messages about one candidate is 50 votes back from winning, another candidate is getting endorsed by congressional leaders and other folks. I mean, everybody's sort of putting out their whip count. Where are you in the winning process?
My impression, of the candidates, to the extent that people know about them, and I wonder, sometimes I want to run around and ask questions like, how much are you familiar, like, when's the vote, for instance? You guys would know the vote, but like February 1st, like a lot of people don't know who's running. People don't know who's running.
They don't know. They don't know.
So, who can even vote? Who can even vote for this?
And who can vote? These 450 people, right? So, my impression, understanding of where I think, having called a lot of people, talked about it, is Ken Martin leading the race with the plurality, in my view, being uncommitted, no first candidate. That's what I honestly think is the situation. There's a lot of fluidity to it right now. There's a sense of not being terribly, sold and excited. I think a lot of people, the particular delegates coming into February 1st weekend, are just, I think their votes are open, more open than, they might want to tell certain peoples who have been around for a while and campaigning in certain ways and are, important in the universe. Like my impression is that there's more fluidity there, and I'm entering as a dark horse with that. I was hoping, when I jumped in, I think a number of the candidates were assuming I wouldn't get to the signature threshold, and I got it in a day, which was, 40 plus signatures in a day, which affirmed to me that even in the late stage, right, more than 2 weeks out, that people were open. And they're like, the assumption of some of the leading candidates was that, well, hey, no one wants another person at the forum. No one wants another person in this race. It's all over. They're comfortable with the choices they've got. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. And I think my view is the plurality is still uncommitted.
Well, I certainly enjoy a good, October surprise, I guess, in this January surprise, shake things up and let's get voices in there. It is still unfortunate that it's only 450 people who get to make this choice. But it is really, really appreciated that you joined us today, Faiz, after all the work you've done on behalf of issues, the party, and a more perfect union, which I think is something we can all get behind.
Thank you, Nayyera. And did we work together, Pelosi, by the way? I think didn't back.
Oh my gosh, I was trying to piece it together, folks. This is when Faiz and I feel older than we should, because I remember you were at DNC as a researcher. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
Yeah, I was at the Triple C as a comms person, and I think that's how far back it goes. And
he just took me back to 2004, so
yes,
we all go back. ways.
So I was working for
Jamal. I actually, Faiz, I don't know how old you are because we're just kind of all of us similar. Like I do know that Jamal is 10 years older than me. That I will remember, and I will remind others of that too.
Yeah, I was 45. I'm 45, and I was telling Jamal, like I looked up to Jamal because I was working for Bob Graham before I got into the DNC job. I was working for Bob Graham, and Bob, I think, hired you. Didn't you get involved?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. He hired me to be a spokesman. It was there's a whole story behind that, but it was great. I love Bob Graham.
I love seeing staffers who are like, oh, I came into this because I wanted to make stuff happen, and I guess it's our turn to step up to do these things. So
you only live once.
Yeah, that's it.
Absolutely. And it's funny, I had a conversation with somebody just recently, and if anybody's listening and they're thinking about what to do, the thing about working in politics is you will meet some of the best people that you've ever known in your life. You will work on things that you believe in a way that, especially in the beginning, because some of the first jobs you work in politics, you do it just purely for the love of it. There's something about it that drew you there. And it is so helpful to go work on something you really believe in, because it will center you when you're someplace you shouldn't be. And you'll know it. Like, I shouldn't work here because I don't believe in anything happening here. And I know what it's like to believe in something, and I don't want to be here. So I recommend it to everybody. Go do it. Even if it doesn't matter if you win or lose, you'll have probably one of the best professional times of your life.
Love it.
Faiz, where can people follow you in your work now?
So, I guess, anyone still on X these days? At F Shakir, I guess there, at F Shakir, and then, Blue Sky, and, I urge people to take a look at some of the more Perfect Union content that we've done. I did an interview with Joe Biden, for instance, like a couple weeks ago, and sat down with him for a one-on-one chat about his legacy. So, those would be some of those places. And welcome them looking at my Medium post about why I'm running for the DNC chair. So.
Awesome. Very good. Well, we're excited about it. We're glad you came and joined us.
Thank you.
I think we learned a lot. I think people listening have learned a lot. And I think you are going to make a big impact on this, because the things that you're saying are the things that I hear people talking about who don't have megaphones and microphones. This is what they're looking for, something that really matters to their lives. So thank you for being here.
Very kind of you to say. Thank you.